Lesson 32. Let's begin with our first word, absolute. A useful phrase to remember is absolute or relative. If something is absolute, it means it is complete, perfect, or total. If a rule is absolute, it applies in all cases with no exceptions. In math, absolute numbers have a definite value, while relative numbers change depending on the situation. The phrase absolute or relative is often used when comparing things that are fixed and unchanging with things that depend on circumstances. Now, let's look at capacity. A helpful phrase for this word is trunk capacity. Capacity means how much something can hold. A large suitcase has a big capacity, while a small bag has a smaller one. A car's trunk capacity refers to how much space is inside the trunk for luggage or groceries. The phrase trunk capacity is used when talking about how much a container, car, or room can carry or store. Next, we have distort. A good phrase to remember is distort the facts. To distort means to change something in a way that is not true or accurate. A funhouse mirror distorts your reflection, making you look taller or wider. If someone distorts the facts, they change the truth to make it sound different. The phrase distort the facts is often used when people twist information to make it misleading or false. Let's move on to frail. An example phrase is frail creature. If something is frail, it is weak or delicate. A baby bird is a frail creature because it is small and easily hurt. An elderly person might be frail because they are not as strong as they used to be. The phrase frail creature is used when talking about animals or people that are physically fragile and need care. Now, let's talk about illustrious. A useful phrase is an illustrious leader. If someone is illustrious, they are very famous and respected for their achievements. A president or king with great accomplishments is an illustrious leader. A scientist who makes an important discovery can have an illustrious career. The phrase an illustrious leader is often used when talking about historical figures or highly respected individuals. Next, we have legible. A great phrase for this word is legible handwriting. If something is legible, it is clear enough to read. A printed book has legible words, but messy handwriting might not be legible. Teachers ask students to write neatly so their work is legible. The phrase legible handwriting is often used when talking about writing that is easy to read and understand. Let's move on to mortal. An important phrase to remember is humans are mortal, gods are not. If something is mortal, it means it will eventually die. Humans, animals, and plants are mortal because they do not live forever. In myths, gods are often described as immortal, meaning they never die. The phrase humans are mortal, gods are not is used when talking about the difference between beings that can die and those that cannot. Now, let's discuss percentage. A phrase to associate with this word is 8% sales tax. A percentage is a number that represents a part of 100. If you get 90% on a test, you answered 90 out of 100 questions correctly. Sales tax is also given as a percentage of the total price, like an 8% sales tax on a purchase. The phrase 8% sales tax is used when talking about the extra money people pay when they buy something in a store. Next, we have recoil. A useful phrase is recoiled in fear. To recoil means to move back suddenly, usually because of fear or shock. If someone sees a snake, they might recoil in fear. If you touch something very hot, you will recoil quickly to avoid getting burned. The phrase recoiled in fear is often used when someone is scared and moves away from something suddenly. Finally, let's talk about terminate. A helpful phrase is terminate the phone call. To terminate means to end something. A company can terminate an employee, meaning they lose their job. If a contract is terminated, it is no longer valid. The phrase terminate the phone call is used when someone hangs up or ends a conversation on the phone. That's the end of lesson 32. Keep practicing these words and phrases to build your vocabulary and confidence.